The point is that we just assigned an A rating for Peru. There are very few Latin American countries that have ever had an A rating. The first one was Chile. Now it has a high rating. The other one was Mexico earlier this year, and then the third one in that respect is Peru. So that is why when you make comparisons of Peru relative to other Latin American countries, it's really not the right way to do it, at least in terms of how we do it, because Peru is rated higher. It's part of a different peer group. In that peer group, you have mostly Eastern European countries and Asian countries. The two best references in terms of Asian and European, Eastern Europeans are Malaysia, that has the same rating as Peru, and Poland, that has a relatively high rating. What we found out when we were doing the comparisons between Peru and these countries, Mexico included, is that Peru is the one that has the lowest income. So relatively speaking, within that group, it has a low income level. It's a medium to small size economy, smaller than the others, but what it has in its favor is that high growth. By that I mean average growth of about 6%. Just as a reference, it's higher than the growth of Malaysia. Malaysia is an Asian country. Most Asian countries report high growth rates. For Malaysia, it's more than 5%. For Peru, it's more than 6%. So in this respect, Peru is doing even better than the Asian reference. The other thing is that when you look at the government finances, the government accounts are pretty strong. When it comes to debt to GDP ratios, in the case of Peru, it's about 20% of GDP. Mexico does well in this area, but Mexico is about 30%. And when you look at either the European peer, that's Poland, or the Asian peer, that is Malaysia, you see that for those debt to GDP is more than 50%. So the point is that the Peruvian government has stronger finances. The last thing is that when you look at the institutions related to corruption, transparency, how effective the government is, then that's where you see the shortcomings in the case of Peru. Peru is clearly behind in those areas with respect to most peers, and particularly Poland and Malaysia. So it's strong on the economic side because of growth, it's strong on the fiscal side because of low debt levels, but it's relatively weak in terms of institutional strength. We think that the current rating that we have sort of incorporates all the pluses and the minuses that are present right now in Peru. And one important thing is that even though the economy is not doing very well at this point in time, growth is going to be about 3% this year, between 3 and 4% this year, next year, when average growth has been 6%, so it's significantly lower. In spite of this, we decided to upgrade Peru in July. So that means that in a way we're not paying that much attention to the short-term performance of the economy. We're confident that they will be going back towards higher rates of about 5 to 6%. Not this year, not next year, but after 2015. When it comes to what constrains the rating, I go back to what I said before in terms of income levels and institutions. Despite of high growth, income levels are lower than in other peers. And institutions is something that, it takes time for institutions to change significantly. So overall, we don't think that we're going to be adjusting the rating anytime soon. By this I mean, well, we're at the end of 2014, so that's irrelevant. But it's unlikely at this point in time that we would be doing any changes to the rating in 2015 or 16. So for all practical purposes, it means that during the rest of this administration, this rating, the A3 rating that we assigned in July, will be the one that we will see. The way in which we're looking at the energy metrics is, that means that the way in which governments and countries change the composition of the energy supplies is more through the impact that it has on the balance of payments, because several countries particularly have to import oil for their energy needs. And the other thing is that in some cases you see a fiscal impact because the oil imports, when there's an increase, this is not the case right now, but when oil prices are high, sometimes the government tends to compensate for the outside prices and provide subsidies so that gasoline does not increase as much. So the connection that we see when it comes to the energy topics have to do with balance of payments and or the fiscal accounts. In that respect, if the countries are able to diversify the matrices away from non-renewable sources, away from oil, that would have a benefit not only in terms of the quality of the energy that they have, but also in terms of the impact that shifts or the changes in the prices of oil and other of those resources can have on both the external accounts and the fiscal accounts, and that is positive for the ratings. To be honest, we don't explicitly look at climate change per se. The fact is that this has been a factor that is having an economic impact in the region, maybe more so in Central America than in South America, but the South American countries are facing the same problems. And what you see here, problems relate sometimes to infrastructure, in the sense that, for instance, tropical storms destroy infrastructure. The other thing that is particularly relevant in the case of Peru is the impact of climate change and weather patterns in terms of certain industries. The fishing industry is a clear one. So this has been a situation in Peru over the years. El Niño comes, and then the Niña, and then they go away, and this has an impact. We have seen, and the numbers indicate that those weather phenomena have become stronger, and they do have an impact at a sectoral level. However, when you add it up for the economy as a whole, that has been more than compensated by other sectors, mining, construction, whatever. So for us, we see the climate change issues as a medium-term issue, one that we think that the government has to pay attention to, one in which, to be honest, we think that the Peru as a country will be more affected by that, being able to impact climate change, given the global trends. But so far, we don't see it as something that has a significant impact, or as an impact that is as significant as that of other elements, like, as I was saying, growth, the fiscal accounts, and those other factors. What we anticipate is that for all countries in general, and some specifically, this may become a more important subject over the medium term. That would be, toward the end of this decade. For the time being, as I said, we think that in a way this is already captured in the rating that we have.